Okay, I got a comment about this video that I did on absorption. And although the absorption part was kind of lost on in the comment, um, what the what the person said was that with the hands in tight like this, wouldn't it? Doesn't that go with the idea of angular momentum, and that the closer to the body the hands are, the faster the bat head will be traveling? And the answer to that is no, that's not the case. The body will spin faster when it's upright, and it will spin faster if you put the bat, if you hugged the bat and all you were doing was spinning. But that's not all that you're doing. What you're doing is the idea of you're doing many different things. You're pushing off the backside, so you have linear motion going this way. You're also rotating as fast as you possibly can, but you're doing those two actions together. You're not sitting in one point and rotating around that point like a skater does. If we look at the world's fastest skater, you see that they start off kind of low and wide in order to gain some momentum in order to spin. And then when they go into their spin, it's typically wide, and then they get more and more and more narrow. This is, I think, the world record for the fastest spin ever. And her hands are really tied in towards her body. But she's spinning on one point. And that's not what happens in baseball. Because if this worked in hitting, and this were the single most important factor, then a player would get a bat that was just barely wider than their shoulders, and they would attach that bat and then just sit in one point in the batter's box and spin. But that's not what's taking place. Now, the second best thing would be to have the player use it like a 28-inch bat and keep their hands completely close into their chest and then spin in one spot. But that's not a good comparison in my mind, because that's not the action that's happening. If we look at another skater, let's watch this action, because this is a skater going into, I'm not sure what it's called. I think it's a triple Lutz, or it's some kind of spin move where they're jumping and spinning. And this is a lot closer to a baseball swing. And as you notice, she's in a loaded position, a little bit like a hitter. She's got the hip is closed. She takes a stride and then jumps and turns at the same time. And this is a lot closer to what a hitter is actually doing. Is they're loading up and they are making energy go this direction. She's gonna do three things. She's gonna jump. She's gonna gain forward momentum. She's gonna gain some ground going forward, and then she's gonna turn. So all three of those actions are what is happening. And in order to do that, what position does she get in? She doesn't get really tight. She gets really low and wide in order to create the most energy going that way, and the energy to be able to spin as fast as possible so that she can complete all the spins before she hits the ground. So I think that movement is a lot closer to being able to compare a hitter. But let's take a look at a couple of hitters, and we'll even look at that function of it. This one is important. You've seen this before if you've watched my videos. But this is this player's farthest bomb. Now, that's important to note, because that's the goal here. The goal is not to see how fast you can spin. The goal is to see how far you can hit it. And in order to be able to see how far you can hit it, there's a bunch of different things going on. One is movement going that way. The other is you're going to see some torque in here. You're going to see the hands going this direction while the hip just starts to open. But you're going to see the longest swing physically possible. Why? Because that creates the fastest bat hit. The longer the swing is. If that swing were cut short by any means, whether it's get a shorter bat, whether it's bend the lead elbow and make the path shorter, whatever it is that causes that bat to be shorter is going to cause the speed to go down. But it doesn't happen when they hit their farthest bombs. What happens is they get all the energy they can get going that way, and then they turn as fast as they can up to a point. Now watch what happens in this player. even though this is the farthest bomb. This is a 450-foot bomb. Watch what happens on the spin. As soon as the back foot stops turning, we'll go back again and take a look at that. But as soon as the back foot, right now, the back foot is turning and pushing forward. It's doing two movements because we have forward momentum and we have turn. We have both of those two things working in unison. But when the back foot stops turning and pushes all the weight forward, watch what happens to the hip. It stops turning as well. And so the biggest portion of this swing is more linear than it is rotational. Even though the bat's rotating, the lower half stops rotating at a certain point. But the swing arc is as big as it can physically get. And it doesn't matter who you look at. It doesn't matter if it's Jose Bautista. It doesn't matter if it's Cabrera. It doesn't matter who it is. When they hit their hardest bombs, their lead arm is extended, their backside has released, the front side locks out. All of those things happen. But the one thing that happens is they make the biggest physical swing arc that they can make. The bat travels a long ways in order to create that kind of speed. Even the players who are noted for bringing their hands into their body, when they hit their biggest bombs, watch what happens to the hands and the lead arm. That lead arm is going to get stiff, locked out. They're going to keep this angle, and that is as long physically as that swing can get. That bat head couldn't get any further away from his body unless he threw it. That's the only possible way that it could get farther. He has to let go with the top hand, in fact, in order to let the lead arm stay extended all the way through the hitting area, all the way into the finish. And again, his body stops rotating at a certain point, and so it's not about rotation. It's about rotation combined with a linear movement. If you're not going that way, you're not hitting your farthest bomb, period. You can test that, and when you test it, you're going to find that when that back foot doesn't leave the ground a little bit, when it doesn't rotate and push forward as far as possible, it's not the farthest bomb that player can hit. Rotation is part of it, but rotation is only one part of it. There are a lot of parts that we're talking about, but the one part that the video was about was simply absorption. I probably should not even have mentioned any of the speed stuff that happens with the bat and the lead arm stuff that everybody's afraid of, but yet everybody does it when they hit their farthest bomb. This is like that secret that we keep. But what I'm talking about is one single factor, and that is the amount of energy that's going into his hand right now, and that's really what this is all about. It's about when you decrease the amount of absorption and impact, you increase the exit velocity of the baseball. That's all I really am caring about. The bat speed causes, the better the bat speed, the better chance you have of maxing out your exit velocity. But like I said, his bat speed is what it normally is here, only minus a mile an hour or two because he's brought his hands in close. And yes, that definitely is going to decrease his bat speed a little bit. But it's not enough to answer why does this ball only go 130 feet over the shortstop's head and not even bend any grass when it hits the ground. And the answer to that is because it's coming off the bat slowly, because a lot of the energy is getting absorbed into the body. So not just about spin, not just about bat speed, not just about linear push, but it's about all of those things combined. But the one that's the most overlooked is this one, the idea that absorption doesn't matter. It most definitely matters.